Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Newfane Selectboard meeting, Monday, May 2nd. And we have Jeff Chevalier, Katy, Johnson-Aplin, Ann Golob, myself, Angela Sanborn, and we have Juanetta Powling, Austin Rice here. And then on Zoom, Jane Douglas, Edward Collin, and Jay Wilson, and Chris Norton from the Sheriff's Department. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to the approval of the April 18th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now the April 18th Board of Liquor Control. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. And we're here to listen to you, Jay, the road foreman and commissioners report. Good evening.
Good evening. So the Arch Bridge cement footings are complete on the Williamsville end. We hope to be forming up the south end by the end of the week.
Wow.
I have a meeting next week with Bill Jewell and Lael Will from state of Vermont. She's the fisheries and something person to address the little seasonal stream that goes through the gravel pit. And Bill is also working on the archaeological part of the permit process right now. The 30-day waiting period is almost up for the 254 Depot Road condemnation process. So I let the state know that that was coming up and they'll start proceeding as soon as that happens. The new small truck that we started the replacement process 13 months ago is now complete and we should be seeing it very soon. Not used to things taking quite this long to happen. We need to secure our supplier of winter sand quickly. I had 2 towns contact me last week about who we had used. Supplier will continue the next year for $1 per yard increase for the fuel cost. I'd like to see if we could, normally we don't do it till after July 1st, but I think we need to let him know if we're going to use him that he's, because he's going to start taking, other towns and we don't want to be left out.
How many yards, Jay, a year are we getting from them?
It depends, between 3,500 and the most I think we've gone through is 55 one year. But usually around 35 to 4, somewhere in that neighborhood.
That's a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot additional wow.
What do you mean additional? Isn't that just
$1 per yard, so
additional
3,500 yards.
Okay.
That's an extra $35,000 just for fuel.
No, it'd be 3,500.
3,500.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yep. No, fuel costs have pretty much doubled since the last, month and a half.
Yeah. What company do we use?
We used Derrig from Putney.
Okay.
I think it makes sense to go ahead now and,
Yeah, I'd feel more comfortable if we had it secure.
yep, makes sense.
Before it goes up again.
Yes,
Do we have a motion to accept?
I make such a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on topic 5 on sand? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Can you go ahead and contact him and let him know?
I will.
Thank you.
We have a contract from Du Bois and King for the village scoping study for you to approve. It's almost 3,000 over what we've budgeted. Request to the village trustees to see if they will cover it, but the village meeting won't be till June 1st.
When do you need to have that done by?
we need to get the contract right away because it's about a year to complete it. And they want to have it ready for next April's money in case we want to go for the sidewalk money. That's when the grant comes out. So I think, I mean, we won't have to pay most of it until next year with the, towards the spring.
Okay.
But I think, I mean, if we can't talk the village into it, then probably find the other 3,000 from somewhere. But it's just a matter of getting the engineers going. They wanted to take a little longer than a year to do it, and we convinced them to shorten it up just a little bit to so that we can still be under the wire for the grant if we want to go for it for next year to work on those sidewalks and stuff and crosswalks.
So we could go ahead and approve it if we wanted and then ask the village to reimburse.
That makes sense.
And odds are we won't be paying for it anyways till long after they meet. So, because we've got a grant for most of it, we budgeted for our match for the grant. It's just the bid. We got them down a little bit, but we couldn't get them all the way down.
Is there a motion to approve the Newfane Village scoping study?
You mean the
For the contract.
for the contract. I approve, I make such a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Sorry,
Go ahead.
what are you doing?
Any further discussion?
Oh, she's standing on protocol here.
This is for this crosswalks and stuff? Sorry.
So it's for the Route 30 corridor of Newfane Village for crosswalks and sidewalks.
Okay, thank you.
Sidewalks were they're too far out of compliance, so there's really nothing to start with. So it's be a whole new project.
And it's just on Route 30.
Yeah, because the West Street stuff had been done previously.
Mhm.
So we have the crosswalks and the handicap access to them and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the contract for this village scoping study?
I'm just looking quick, I'm looking for what the full price is. Oh, I see, 39.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Continue on.
Okay, so we had a sinkhole open up yesterday afternoon around the culvert as you enter Loop Road from Route 30. We had Mark Pickering there this morning and have done a temporary repair. Mark is having a hydraulic study done, which will take a number of months to complete. But once we get that, then we'll have to come up with a replacement plan for that culvert. I would like to thank the town of Dover for their pavement cutter. They let us use that. It worked very well. And WW Building Supply brought out a brand new Makita battery powered jackhammer, and we used that to knock the pavement away from the abutment and so forth. And that was very helpful.
That's great.
And I just wanted to let you know that fuel will be over budget with the huge increase in cost.
That is not surprising. It's
No,
expensive.
I don't see an end to it. It goes up every week.
I know.
It looked promising for a minute,
Yeah.
and it bounced right back up. All right, is there a motion to accept the road foreman and commissioners report?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. And any further discussion? I have a question if it's all right. Now that spring is here and the roads seem to be doing well, is there a plan to go and check out all the culverts and stuff to make sure that they're cleaned out and repaired as best as we can?
We've been doing some of that already in the backhoe out separately, but yeah, it'll take us, a couple of months probably to make our way around.
Yeah, just in looking towards the future of rainy summers. Hopefully we don't have one like last year, but it's nice to get ahead of that. Great.
Yep.
And I was just curious, before the work started on Arch Bridge, some neighbors from Duke Road had come, concerned about how they would get into their road. Did that
Yep.
get resolved?
I put a turnaround in. I talked to the neighbor that owns the property on the opposite side of the road, Sunset Lake, and he was willing to have us put a turnaround in. So we put a turnaround in for them, and it seems to be working pretty well.
Great,
Yes.
great.
And we now have Mike Fitzpatrick on the phone joining us. Thank you for joining us. I have a question about ditching. How's all of that going?
Ditching, we'll start hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We'll be done enough so we can go back to doing some ditching.
Okay.
Parish Hill is the one we have a grant for, starting at the Green Iron Bridge and going up the hill to pretty much the top of the hill there.
Great. Just want to make sure that we're ahead of the game.
Yep.
Wow, what is that gonna look like?
Is that a question for Jay?
That's just amusing where the road is like 8 feet below the.
Yeah.
We'll have to take a field trip and check it out.
No.
All right, anything further on the road foreman and commissioners report? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for all your hard work, and thank the rest of the road crew for us as well.
Okay, thanks.
And now we are moving on to our administrative assistant report. Good evening, Juanetta.
Good evening, Angela. I have attached the agreement for the services for rescue for the next 3 years. Their current contract will expire on June 30th. There is an invitation to a board member of the Selectboard to join a discussion with the Board of Trustees at the Brattleboro Station on May 19th at 6:30 regarding the long-term effect of Brattleboro's decision to drop services. If someone would like to attend, I will need to send an RSVP.
I went last year. Is anyone interested in going? They do a phenomenal presentation.
I would definitely go.
Okay.
What day of the week is the 19th?
I'm gonna guess it's a Friday.
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday, yes.
I will plan on going as well unless something comes up.
Okay.
Because I think this is going to be an important one with
Yeah, this is-
Brattleboro dropping out.
I-
This is-
Yeah, I'm interested in going too.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
would
know
be
if I
interested.
can.
Do they care if we send multiples?
No, they have it in the bay and it's
Oh.
pretty open.
Okay.
And Jay, are you planning on going too?
I can, or if you've got enough, that's fine too, either way.
Okay. We'll see what happens. And we'll touch base that week, the beginning of that week. We have a meeting that Monday, so we can confirm more then on who's going, but you can let them know that most of the board will probably be attending.
Okay.
Great. Continue on.
Now, do you figure that's gonna go up by a little too, or where Brattleboro's not doing them no more?
The
I'd be
current,
shocked if it
the
didn't.
current contract that they sent us is based on the population, and it doesn't look like it's increased significantly. The 2022-23 is assessed at $29.50 per person. So their contract total is $48,527. It goes up pennies the next few years. In 2025, their projection is $49,514.
When do they need to have this by?
This contract ends June 30th.
Well, we already voted on that in the budget anyway, that now, right?
Correct.
Right. I just wondered, where Brattleboro's doing away with them, they're gonna, that must have been quite enough, when they lost their,
I'm sure. So you'd like us to sign this tonight?
It doesn't need to be signed tonight. We can wait until the next meeting and give you a chance to look it over. There's a summary of services and notice of billing practices, standard of care.
Anybody on the board have anything they'd like to say?
I'm just curious how it's all going to work going forward with these changes from Brattleboro. So I think we should take some time to just read this and discuss it at the next meeting.
I think that is good as well. Can you find out if they need to have this before their meeting on the 19th, or if we can sign it after?
I can.
Does that make sense? That way we get all of the information. that we
They
need.
said they want it returned by June 30th.
Oh, so we have plenty of time. Great.
They're asking for a 3-year contract.
So we'll bring that back to the table, our first or second meeting in June, and have it sent right away after that? Excellent. Okay.
On May 11th, from 9 to 12, I'll be taking the final VLCT training for select board members. This will cover legal and effective meetings. If there's anyone that would like to sign up, you can let me know after the meeting. The zoning administrator will be returning tomorrow with limited restrictions following his procedure last week. We only had a few people that needed assistance and just one application waiting for his review.
Can I ask, when the items that came in, were you at a point yet where you could review any of it or no?
I don't review his applications. I assist with new applications, handing them out, and I took written notes for him to call back.
I see. Okay.
Regarding our Aflac employee benefits, I have been attempting to register Newfane for online billing statements. Their system was not available for me today, and they have chosen to no longer send invoices through the mail. If we do not register, we will end up forfeiting our coverage. And I started scheduling other committee members and chairs to come and discuss their plans, news, questions, or concerns with the select board. By helping to keep you informed as a board, will help to better serve the residents of Newfane, South Newfane, Williamsville, and Brookside.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
And did you, on the Aflac issue, are you able, hopefully,
I spoke with Vanessa today. She says Mondays are not a good day to log in, and I can either try again tomorrow or she'll help me do it on Wednesday.
And who's Vanessa?
Vanessa is our agent, Vanessa Long.
okay.
Yep.
And if there's an issue after that, will you let me know?
I definitely will.
And then we have to figure something out. All right, is there a motion to accept the administrative assistance report?
I make such a motion?
Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you for all your hard work. Okay, now we have nothing on for committee report, and we'll go to the scheduled members of the public, and I'd like to welcome the Sheriff Mark Anderson and Sergeant Chris Norton from the Sheriff's Department. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
And
Good
we
evening.
will have Katy start.
Hi there.
Thank you so much.
So on Friday, Jeff and I took a moment to go through all of the documents that you had sent over to us, and we came up with a few conclusions, one of which was if you could give us some greater detail, clarity, and continuity between the two reporting styles. That would be really helpful for us to understand what we're looking at. We just couldn't line up patrol times with tickets to make it make sense. And if you would, I don't think it would be too revealing if you told us if it was a Vermont resident or an out-of-state resident. That would be helpful information too. We both wondered what the GHS grant patrol is, which was listed a couple of times.
Are you giving me a list of questions, or would you like me to respond to each one?
One of them is just a declaration. The second one was a question. What is the GHS grant patrol?
So my department applies for a federal grant each year. It used to be called the Governor's Highway Safety Program. It's
Okay.
now a federal grant that's through the State Highway Safety Office. And so the town of Newfane receives patrols for the targets of those grants. So one covers impaired driving, one covers distracted driving, and then another covers driving in a work zone. And then another one covers occupant protection. And actually Sergeant Norton is our coordinator. So that's a countywide program. We do that in all the towns in Windham County. It's based on reducing fatal crashes as well as motor vehicle crashes within the county.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. So another thing that Jeff and I did was go through and just look at where the tickets were being given. And we noted that out of the tickets on our lists, 42 tickets were given on Route 30 and 22 given elsewhere. It was hard for us to determine if that was the best use of time. We had hoped for more traffic calming measures in some of the smaller villages too. When we discussed our contract in June or May, I can't remember which, last year, we had discussed spending more time on back roads and smaller roads, as well as general traffic calming measures in the villages. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
So we've certainly focused patrols within the villages and back roads. I can't speak to any specificity because I wasn't prepared to answer any of these questions today, but certainly happy to look into it. It doesn't surprise me that Route 30 will see more because we see more violations on Route 30 just as a general rule of the design of the road. We also, generally, villages are going to see increases in traffic during commuting hours or target times. And so then there's also portions of the day which will not really have any significant traffic. So to stay in a village where there's just no one driving through is not appearing to be a reasonable use of time. If you'd like us to do that anyways, I mean, certainly we could adjust, but we were trying to utilize time both on the back roads, if you will, as well as during the quieter times on Route 30.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, you have anything to add?
I don't have much to add. It's I understand you guys you can't be out there all the time.
Right.
And
Giving tickets on dirt roads is kind of hard because they don't really have speed limits. They do, but it's 50, so it's like.
Unless it's posted, but our experience is usually if it's a tough road like out in South Newfane, most people aren't going to be going too fast anyways.
Yeah,
Right.
45 is like bare knuckle.
Yeah. As a resident of Williamsville, I see a lot of people fly through that village.
Yes.
I mean, I sit at the bus stop with my son every morning. I could probably give out $2,000 in tickets in the 20 minutes I'm sitting there waiting for the bus every day.
Thank you.
It's just constant. I see people going 45, 50 through there all the time, but that's a peak hour. I know that's the time everybody would like you guys to be everywhere. So I understand you can't be sitting there all the time, but
I'll make sure that gets communicated to our patrol staff for that time period, though, because it's good for us to know these things. Obviously, areas around bus stops are going to be more sensitive and observed. But if we don't know that the issue is occurring, then certainly we're not aware to look for it. So I'll get Williamsville Road at the bus stop at 7 in the morning on the list.
Jane, you had a question?
Yes, hello Sheriff, thank you. You know, we are out walking all the time in years past. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Chevalier. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Really, you can go at sleepy times and I assure you, you'll catch a whole lot of them. They come running through so badly. In winter, there are no sidewalks, so there are mounds of snow. So it's dangerous, it really is, and somebody's going to get hurt very soon.
Yeah, I can say that there have been a lot of folks that have mentioned the fact that people are driving too fast everywhere.
Yes.
And passing in the middle of all of the villages, and it's insane. So yeah, if you could look into that, that would be fantastic.
Angela, can I just tell them something?
Yes, Jay, go ahead.
So the radar signs that we have in Williamsville on Route 30 north of the village, and the one that will be going up shortly in Brookside, the far end of South Newfane, control from the garage. So if you ever want to run speed there, I can shut them off so they don't slow people down before they get to you. So
That is so cool.
if you just give me a heads up, I'll shut them off. So
How much heads up do you need, Jay?
just all I have to be is at the garage. So if you can catch me in the morning early or let me know anytime, I'll make sure they're off in the morning or however.
Mr. Levine.
Otherwise known as Steve. There exist these devices that monitor speeds. They take pictures of the license plates and issue tickets. Is that something that's possible we can use, or is it illegal, or what's the story? Because people just, I live in Williamsville and I know the danger, and you can go anytime from 6 in the morning till 9 at night, and people are going to be zipping through there. I know the same is true in South Newfane, and it's also true in Brookside. So, you want to get the most bang for your buck, but really, are these devices something we can look into? Or I know you want to optimize your use of deputies, but really, you can go anytime, day or night, and you'll find people speeding. Sure, 7 o'clock in the morning with the kids at the bus stop, that's terrible. But I walk through the village quite often, and it doesn't matter. It could be 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. People are speeding continually. That road gets a lot of traffic. So my question is, one, are those devices something we could look into? And two, feel free to come to Williamsville and South Newfane any time of the day.
It would
And you will find speeders. Okay.
So to answer your first question, sir, the devices do exist. They are incredibly expensive. It was just part of a study with VTrans regarding them, and I apologize, I don't have the exact number in my mind, but I believe it was a 6-figure number because it also comes with a support contract and a processing contract. The second part is they're not currently legal in the state of Vermont due to some actions of the legislature in prior years that have limited law enforcement's use of license plate readers and artificial intelligence. So right now, those are not really a tool that we can use here. The second part, we're more than happy to come to Williamsville, South Newfane, Brookside, and work to start helping with these issues you've identified.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
When you do choose to patrol, I don't see you very often at all, but when I do see you, do you sit still in any places? I guess that's my question. Do you sit still in places to catch people who are speeding, or are you just doing it by driving around?
I can't speak to any one deputy. There's a combination of strategies. We encourage using both. What we'll find is moving around, we're likely to find more egregious issues because we don't have what we call the halo effect, people flashing headlights, apps like Google Waze. So we're more likely to find the one-offs, whereas sitting still in a location, it's going to be lower speeds that we're identifying, but we'll still identify probably a larger variety. So we do like to mix up both strategies.
How often are you ticketing for less than 10 miles over the speed limit? So between, I don't know, 5 and 10, whatever you do for tickets.
I do not have that answer off the top of my head.
Okay.
Each deputy's provided with discretion on whether they write a ticket or a warning. A national average and we usually don't even disclose what any one number is, because technically the law says if it's anything over 25 or over 30 or 35, whatever that sign is, they're violating it. So to say that there's a magic number above or below could also create an issue that somebody says, well, the sheriff said in the meeting with Newfane Selectboard that they don't write tickets under 10 over or 5 over or 2 over, whatever it is. So
you do note them in your paperwork though for what ticket has been issued, whether that's 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 20 to 30, etc. So you're doing it at some point. You're making those decisions, but I was wondering, there aren't many of the lower ones. Is what I'm noticing.
Yeah, I can't speak with any specificity at the moment, but certainly happy to respond to it.
Terrific. Thank you.
Anne, you had a question?
I had a question. I just wanted to know where things are at with your staffing levels.
I was just thinking that.
We are an anomaly in the state of Vermont. We are one of the few agencies that are fully staffed right now.
Congratulations.
Great. So does that mean the monthly hours will be more consistent?
That is our goal. I do want to note that while we're fully staffed, not everybody is fully qualified. And while that shouldn't have any direct effect on the town of Newfane in terms of what we've contracted for, it does affect how other parts of our operation will be impacted. So the goal is, yes, we are consistent with what we contracted for now that we're full staff. It'll probably take roughly 6 months to fully qualify everybody. But again, that shouldn't have any impact on the work that we're doing with the town. And we anticipate being able to take care of your needs.
Great. And you'll be back soon with an updated contract perhaps?
I will. We were just waiting for all the towns to conclude their town meetings, and then we were going to reach out with our contract renewals. Can I just confirm what the Newfane amount was for?
$12,500.
Okay.
Or approximately 20 hours per month.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's clear.
We pay $12,500 for the services provided, and it's for 20 hours a month.
Great. I think I have my last town meeting tomorrow, so we should be starting up our contract mill here shortly.
Okay, and I'll have Juanetta be in touch with you to set up a time.
Great.
Oh, Chris, would you like to talk about this form that you sent?
Sure, I would be happy to.
Excellent.
So let me get it pulled back up on my side here. One of the things that we can do, and now that I know that there's a bit more of a need out in Williamsville, we just recently purchased with federal funding several units that produce these speed analysis reports. What they do is help both the agency and the municipalities kind of gauge where there's truly a problem. So time can be better spent by the deputies actually enforcing violations in those areas. It is also very helpful when towns are looking to maybe change speed limits, or, it's basically a speed survey. So you can use that information as well to do that if need be. As you see, I don't know if we've sent the town any of our prior information sheets from when we have the speed carts out. I believe we have, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But you'll notice that this is a much more professional report and has a lot better information in it. And there's a couple of the things that we can actually add to it as needed. But yeah, it's a good tool, and it's something that I think will help us even track down a little better what times are needed, or deputies are needed out in a certain areas, out in Williamsville. I know it's an issue.
So can you explain this report?
Yeah, what are we looking at?
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I don't use this very often. Usually the other ones I use, if you push the space bar, it'll actually unmute you momentarily. So I keep forgetting to mute and unmute myself. So sorry about that. So this is a speed data analysis. This is one that I did for Londonderry on Route 121 between 420 and 428. Basically, it gives the total number of vehicles that were analyzed going through the area over that time period. How many of what we would consider enforceable violations, and that's based on the general leeway we give before we start ticketing. In this case here, it showed that the speed limit's 50 miles an hour. The average speed showed 45 miles an hour. Fastest speed was 95. And the
Ripping.
85th percentile speed was 51. And that's generally what the towns will use if they're looking to change speed limit somewhere. With this, it gives us an enforcement rating of low in this area because there's just not that much speed related issues in that area at that time. It can change depending on the seasons, as you know, when there's more transient population coming back and forth to the ski areas, that can change. But, during this period of time, this is what the analysis gave.
So do you know if you've done such reports for Newfane or it
I
sounds
believe,
like
as I said, I believe I have submitted reports for when we had the actual radar speed cart out in South Newfane, I believe is where I had it set up. But it's a totally different, there's no report like this. It's just information that I kind of gleaned from it and email in.
Is this something you can do for Dover Road? South Wardsboro Road is another big one. People are complaining about coming onto West Street.
Yeah, absolutely. I just need a list of places where you'd like it put up, and I'll rotate them through. All I need is a telephone pole to hook them to.
we have those.
We got plenty of those.
Jay, is that something you can work with Sergeant Norton on?
Sure.
Wonderful. I think that would be very helpful for us to figure out what's happening.
Does this device just collect data and not display the speed that people are traveling to them?
Yeah, these are kind of like, they're a little black box. They're kind of like what you've seen with the state highway that have the cables across the road.
Okay.
Except these don't use cables. It uses radar.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think having that up around town in different areas will help us really figure out
Yeah.
where we know where we need to see enforcement, but.
One of the really good parts about this is, unlike the speed carts, these get traffic going in both direction.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Good.
interesting.
So just to set expectations, do you know when we might be able to get some of this output, when we could start looking at it? Is
Yeah,
it a
so-
month, 2 months?
I usually put them up for about a week. And after collecting the info, I send out the reports. So generally you can have one within a week after I pick it up.
Cool, that's great.
So how soon can you put them in Newfane? I know I'm pressuring you.
I know. So I've got, I do have availability now. I just need, if somebody wants to email me a list of where to start, and we'll plug along.
Well, I think we'll start right in Williamsville.
Absolutely.
On Dover Road.
Will
Hey,
needs,
didn't this thing that we put up on the pole, Jay, didn't it tell you the speed, how many cars, and what was the average speed and all that too?
Yes, ours give us all that data, except it only one lane. So we're only seeing the traffic from that one direction.
One direction, right? But
Right.
it tells you how fast they're coming in and out, and how many cars been that day.
Yep.
I remember one time you come with a sheet telling how many, what the average speed was and all that. And
Yep. The thing that would be nice to see is maybe if that sign that's out by the Williamsville post office, if they put theirs in the middle to see once they've gone through that, what is at that point.
yeah, by the eatery or something.
Or by the green.
Yeah. And it's same with all of them where we've got them set up. So if we could get the speed kind of down into the middle of the village.
That would actually be interesting, because that would also cover the issue that Jeff brought up, that at the bus stop with people
Right.
zipping through.
Right.
A lot of people are also trying to catch that light now.
Yeah.
I've seen people definitely stomp on it to catch that green light. So
Excellent. Are there any more questions for Sergeant Norton and the sheriff?
Sheriff Anderson, the very first thing that I talked about was the continuity between the reports and a little bit greater clarity for us, that we can read them a little easier. Is that something that can be done? I know it seems like you have a system.
So
But we can't
I'm not
figure
sure
it
I
out.
understand what report or reports you're working from.
So we have this one which lists the tickets individually. Every single ticket that you've given, including warnings, I think. And then we have a written description for each month that has notes from the deputies that list what roads patrolled they've been on, actions, case numbers and description, which you're not doing, and then what the weather is briefly.
The STARS report.
But they don't, but it's very hard to,
they don't line up.
they don't line up.
And perhaps there are just people issuing tickets on days that aren't listed as designated patrol days. We did notice that some of the tickets happened on days where there was nobody patrolling, and maybe it's just somebody driving from here to there.
Well, I can actually answer that. A lot of times when you see that, that is me. I'm actually grant funded, so I travel all over the county doing speed enforcement and DUI enforcement pretty much everywhere in the county. So sometimes I will do a sheet that shows that it's been done on grant time, where you've seen the GHSP patrols.
Yep.
And honestly, sometimes I may forget to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
terrific. Thanks. Any clarity that can be included is great. We'd love to be able to understand a little bit better.
So just because there's several people who might not have heard this, the first report was based off of a public record. Well, what we would probably coin as a public records request, so it didn't follow the actual process, but we treat it as such. And we're going to start generating that report regularly for the town of Newfane. It's actually a scheduled report we have, so we can provide more data and information. That was based on feedback coming from Winetta, and I assume from the board. Certainly happy to help provide any data that we can that is public record. If it's not public record, we'll let you know. And then the second one was what we call the Sheriff's Town Activity Reporting System, or STARS. And STARS is it's included with our invoice each month. It's also accessible by the town through our website. You can get a login and password for it. It's public record. And we try to be try to be perfect on making sure everything's filled out, but sometimes, as you've noticed, some things will be blank. So if you see something where it says case numbers and a brief description and that's blank, that means that they didn't generate any investigations. We capture traffic stops separately from that, but those will simply be calculated at the bottom as a total summary, as opposed to what happened on each day. This system was designed starting in 2007. So there were some decisions that were made 15 years ago that we're now saying, well, we want more data today. So that's why we're using the newer reporting system, which is right out of our records management system, to help try and give you whatever information you can use to help answer the questions you need to answer.
Great. Thank you very much.
I have one last question, and I realize this is a tough one and you may not be able to answer it tonight, but based on what you've observed in Newfane, your knowledge of the surrounding towns, do you have any recommendations for us on what we might do?
I would like to respond to that, but I'm actually going to ask Sergeant Norton if he'd be willing to speak to it first, since he's actually been doing enforcement and I've been administering the enforcement.
Yeah, so the big thing I have noticed that you've actually started doing is having the radar speed signs up there. Although it may not stop everyone from speeding, it will, however, get, the honest ones, keep them honest. Other than that, I mean, it's going to take time spent in places to get people to slow down. You do have a lot of a transient population that comes through, and if they come through once and they don't see any police, whether it's us or the state police, they're going to remember that and just keep doing what they're doing. That's the unfortunate reality of it. You can put up signs, you can put up the speed signs, but at the end of the day, having somebody out there is what makes the difference.
What level, how many hours a week do other towns have you for? And at what point does it become effective traffic management?
So we range from anywhere from 40 hours a week in a town to 1 hour a week in a town. If I recall correctly, Newfane's population, is it roughly 3,500? Am I high?
1,600.
I apologize. I haven't looked at populations in a while. So in line with that, we have just about the whole range, from probably about 4 hours up to 40 hours with towns of similar populations. My personal, so we're currently operating a contracting system that has been around for decades and decades before me. If you've heard me speak about the state of policing in Windham County, it's very much based on a regionalized model. I'd like to introduce a new model at some point, but we're continuing to run the old system because it's what people know. And while new shiny things don't always mean they work better. But I've been working on a model that I hope to present to towns just for feedback to see if it does make sense in the future, but probably not till next year. What I'd like to advocate for is that rather than we have an individual contract with each specific town where we say, okay, how many hours and whatnot, rather we provide a 24/7 policing model to the entire county. But then that comes with statutory change. It comes with how's it funded and all these different competing questions. I like to equate what we charge towns for service right now with a Netflix membership. Most of the towns could afford a 24-hour policing model, individually afford a 24-hour policing model for the cost of roughly a Netflix membership for a $200,000 home. I don't think every town needs a 24/7 police department, but having access to the service 24 hours a day, I think is needed. We are seeing across the state a staggering reduction in staff in law enforcement agencies. There's been articles published in state media regarding agencies needing to come up with new solutions. They can't rely on support from the state police. We're seeing shifts in communications dispatching centers where the Department of Public Safety is funding regional communication centers because they can no longer support all the agencies they're dispatching for. So there's a lot going on in the public safety realm. I heard during the administrative report about Rescue Inc. There's yet another conversation about regional communication and public safety, and all of these are intertwined. Fire service is in there as well, and Newfane certainly is in a fortunate position with its fire department. But that said, not everybody is, and as one domino falls, while it might not fall in a straight line like we're used to with the game of dominoes, we're starting to see strains on a system that is currently patchwork. So one of my initiatives is to try and develop a model of regionalized service that makes sense for everyone and doesn't cost every town a Netflix membership per $200,000 house.
Would there be an effect when you move to Brattleboro as far as having somebody out in the town?
I was really hoping I was going to get that question. No, I like to say that we were working remote before it was cool. We have in-car computers with internet connections. We have in-car printers that can write tickets. The deputy's office is truly their take-home car. And so with that, the same model that you see today in terms of a deputy showing up is the same model that will be in place once we move to Brattleboro. Most of the deputies who patrol Newfane aren't even seeing the office. Chris is probably the exception because he's a supervisor, so he's coming in to approve casework. You won't see my smiling face each morning, but I will certainly still be coming to town and still be coming out to meetings, stopping into the stores to grab lunch because I just like to eat out. But it just won't be each day. And we do hope once we're fully moved in to invite all the select boards, or at least a representative of each select board, to an open house. So that will be an invitation will come. It's certainly open to the public as well, but we're going to communicate through the select boards. We were fortunate in that our new office is actually going to be, it was cheaper to purchase than it was to provide for the improvements that was necessary for a public safety facility in Newfane. It was about half the price to purchase this building versus adding in the various requirements that we would need in Newfane. So if I could helicopter this building into Newfane, I would love to stay there. But I don't have a helicopter that big. We are also, I don't think it's an agenda item, so I'm just going to mention it. We, the county, the assistant judges and I have been talking about what to do with our current property in Newfane and how it might be able to benefit. So just want to let you know that there's a desire from the county to talk with the town in the future. But we also know that town meeting just finishing, contracting beginning, people's schedules are busy. So whatever makes sense for the town. We don't anticipate being out of Newfane before the beginning of the summer. So we have some time to talk.
What is your time frame of when you'll be leaving and going to Brattleboro?
I would estimate by the end of summer, but that is a very loose estimate based on supply chain. We have to work on improvements of our radio infrastructure just because it's a different model of how we'll connect to our system now. And that's really probably the biggest shift. There's a lot of infrastructural pieces that need to be figured out. I got some good news, which meant we saved roughly $20,000 in one piece of the infrastructure change. And much of that work we're trying to do through grant funds. So we shouldn't see any increase based on the infrastructure changes to any of the towns or the contracts. And because I just mentioned that, I'll also mention we've been working with the legislature this year to get a study passed to identify what the costs of the of roughly 8 sheriff's departments in the state transitioning from the state retirement system to the municipal retirement system. There's currently, I believe, 6 departments that are in the municipal system, and then 8 who are in the state retirement, which is part of the reason for such a significant increase in our contract rate this year. So we got the study, which is needed because it has to do the actuarial analysis to determine what costs, if any, there would be. But the contribution rate or the cost that we have to cover is roughly half. So if we can move to the municipal system, then it allows us to provide a lower contract rate.
I would just like to say that all of us, I think, would be very interested in the future of that building that you're vacating. So as soon as you're ready to have that conversation, I think all of us would like to have it with you.
Great. I will contact the assistant judges and try to act as a conduit to that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We look forward to seeing the traffic report.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really interesting, yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work. I know it's not an easy job. And we look forward to seeing you out on the road.
Appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll move on to unscheduled members of the public. Would anyone like to speak? No hands up. We'll move on to our old business, and we'd like to welcome our Williamsville Hall Committee.
Thank you.
Good evening. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, always nice to be here. And I'm here with Janine Rose, our secretary, and Norbert Benache, our treasurer. So came mostly to talk about the assessment that was done through the Preservation Trust, but I also wanted to mention, we had this mold problem, quote unquote, and Tim Schaefer, the town health officer, met with me, and we went through the building. He didn't find anything really remiss. He sent out a letter. I hope you got a copy of it. It basically was sent to Annie Landenberger, who brought up the problem. And when you get a chance to go through it, you'll see that the onus of the problem really lands on the Rock River players. Because Tim found that most of the problem was probably from props and costumes that have been stored in, somebody's barn next to the cows. And that may have been what caused the situation. He also mentioned the fact that over the years, hundreds, if not thousands of people have used the building. And a lot of elderly people who came and sat in the room in question and never had a problem. So it's an interesting letter. It was sent to Annie. I'm waiting for a response from her, and then we'll figure out if there's anything that the committee or the town needs to do. So
We didn't see the letter.
Oh, Juanetta, do you have a copy?
No, this is
I don't.
different.
Okay, I'm sorry. I will email a copy. I thought Tim sent it to you as well as Annie and I.
That's fine.
And he also sent it,
Oh, wait, no, here it is, apparently.
it was dated March 31st.
No, this is a different letter.
Yeah, it's a different
All
one.
right. Well, it's also,
In
in case you don't have enough to read, it's interesting reading, and we'll deal with what we have to deal with if the problem comes back to us. But basically, Tim said the building's good, it's clean, there's no mold, and we'll figure out the rest.
That's
And
good.
Yeah,
Great.
right. And it is interesting that he did mention the props and costumes that the Rock River players used. The main reason we came was to talk about the assessment that we got from Jan Lewandowski through the Preservation Trust. Remember, the trust paid half his $500 fee, and the town paid the other half. And I don't know if you've had, I think it may have just gotten to you today. There's a lot to read, and there's lots of pictures. But it's really interesting, and I hope that you do find the time to go through it. It's in big type, so it's you know, you can go right through it.
You chose a nice spot.
Right. Yeah, maybe easy reading. But basically, without, this man, Jan Lewandowski, is a expert in his field in preservation, historic preservation. He rebuilt the Windsor Cornish Bridge, which is the longest covered bridge in the United States, if not the world. So he you know, he's great. He knows his stuff. It was a pleasure to go around the building with him. And he said a number of things. Basically, the hall is in good condition. He was very happy that it was being used, because he goes to see a lot of old buildings that are being preserved, but they're just sitting there looking pretty. But we have a building that, you know, is used, and it's also basically in good shape. He listed 6 points that need to be addressed. And I'll go through real quickly. It was amazing to be with him, because what he saw as he looked at things that I, and probably you as well, would never realize. And he listed them in the maintenance needs in order of priority. First one is the base of the chimney. The base of the chimney is actually in the kitchen. It doesn't go all the way to the cellar. There is a foundation that the chimney sits on, but the bottom of the chimney itself is in the kitchen. And it needs to be cleaned out. It needs a cap, it needs to be repointed, but the chimney itself is sound from the roof, except for repointing above the roof, all the way down, and it needs to be cleaned out. So that was the first thing he saw. And the way he saw it was really amazing. The biggest expense is the posts in the basement, down in the cellar. There are wooden posts that help support the wall, if you can imagine, underneath when you walk in the building, there's a little lobby area, and then there's a set of doors. Well, those doors are part of the wall, and that wall supports the front of the balcony. And he immediately looked around and saw that floor was sagging, and he knew where to look. We went to the cellar, and sure enough, the posts that support that wall all the way up were in bad shape at the floor level, because they basically sit in the dirt. They were at one time on rocks and stuff, but that all got kind of moved away. So that's the biggest expense, is to redo those posts and jack up the building. So there's that. Then there's there's a hole in the cornice on the outside underneath the eave, where there's a hole where the birds have been getting in. But he didn't find any evidence of it. The stairs that go from the kitchen, the fire exit stairs that go from the kitchen down to the ground level, we need to build a cover over them, over the stairs and the landing, because what's happening is weather is getting in between the stairs and the building itself, and it's starting to cause problems. But if we don't put the roof on, it'll further just cause decay to the sills and stuff. So that's a big thing. Then the porch roof is an interesting place, because if you look at it carefully, you can see things growing on it. So, which I never really noticed, but he saw it right away. So that has to be taken off, and we need to put a new roof on it. It could be a metal roof, because you really don't see the roof surface itself, and that would probably be the best solution there. And the other thing, the thing we were concerned about, was the slate roof itself, and he checked it out with binoculars, and he thought it was really in good shape, but it needs to be maintained like any other slate roof, and he recommended that we have someone come in and do it, and that might cost maybe $3,000 every few years to just make sure it's in good shape. So if we look at, and he gave us estimates for all these various needs, and the low end came in at $34,000, and the high end of his estimate is $40,000. We just so happen to have $41,063.73 in the capital expense budget.
At the beginning of next year.
At the beginning, right, sorry, thank you, Norbert. At the beginning of June. the next fiscal year. So, and the other thing that we as a committee would like to see done is to see the front of the building painted. Get it pressure washed and painted. Dan thought that the paint on the other three sides were fine. And, you know, it looks pretty decent, but it would be nice. So that, you know, maybe, I took a wild guess what it would cost to pressurize and paint the front, maybe $4,000. So that's what we found, and that's what we know, and that's what I came to tell you. So I would, you know, I know you got a lot to read and look at, but this report, it just was so nicely done, so thoughtful, so thorough.
Yeah, it looks that way. I look forward to reading it.
Yeah, it would be.
I'm just curious, this was in our package from 2021? Was this just for background or?
Yeah, that was just background.
Okay.
That was my guesstimates of things.
This?
Before, you know, I was concerned about the roof.
No,
But
this is a report from Criteria Engineers.
It's an
Oh,
old
yeah.
one from 2021.
Right, they wanted $3,000. And we thought there might be a better way, and then I contacted Preservation Trust, and they told me about this program that they have.
Okay.
And we probably got possibly the best person in the state, if not in the Northeast, to come down and do this, so.
Great.
You guys, anything to add?
I'm assuming you want to get started on some of this rather soon.
Well, that's the other part of it all. As we all know, you know, call a contractor, call him again, and call him again.
Yeah.
And if you know him really well, he might call you back. So, so, you know, I put out some calls to various people, and we'll just keep calling and see what happens. So none of this is going to happen right away, it's my sense. Fortunately, none of it has to happen right away. But we'll push forward with it and see where we can get. I had a question. How many quotes do we need for each specific job? I vaguely remember it was 3, and then once it was 2, maybe now it'll be 1. But what do we need to
have to
do?
put it out to bid.
Yeah, we have to put it out to bids. How many bids do we need?
Well, that's
Sometimes we
who would
only get
answer.
one. That's right. I don't think there's a specific number we have to receive. Sometimes we only get one bid.
Yeah.
But I think that the point is that it has to be, everyone has to have a fair opportunity
Right.
to
Yeah.
bid.
Yeah, that's what.
I think the only requirement is that we select the lowest bid, correct?
Yes.
Right, but you can only find one bid. But, you know, if it's one bid from a reputable contractor, then maybe, could we go with that?
Yeah. That's part of the policy, yeah.
Yeah.
My thought is to give everybody time to read this and discuss it at our next meeting, if that's okay. We'll keep it on,
Yeah.
and then we can ask questions and figure out where we want to go. And which job is the most important to get started on. And then we can set up all of the advertising and put the bids out.
Great.
Good.
But to give us time to read the report and understand it, and then we'll talk about it on, where are we, May 16? What say the rest of the board?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Although I would kind of say, given the state of working with finding contractors, if all of this needs to be done, I would say you put all the bids out and go for whoever you can get as quickly as you can get them. Because,
I would agree.
you know, sometimes a contractor can just happen to squeeze you in, and it may not be the most critical item, but they can squeeze you in, it needs to be done, go for it, so.
Yeah, the chimney is, you know, is first in the order of priority, and then the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whoever we can find who could do any part of it. It's not that one person could possibly, you know, maybe someone could do the stairs, cover, and the posts. That might be one contractor, but the other things are, you know, this and different contractors. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it works out. We're also looking into grants, and at our next whole committee meeting, which is this coming Monday, we'll see if we've gotten anywhere with that.
Great, and then we can all report back on the 16th.
Okay.
Are there any Like, do you have somebody who looks at the slate roof on a regular basis already? That seems like something that would have been.
No, we haven't.
We don't have one here for the town office that I was aware of either.
Huh. It's probably a good thing to figure out.
I have a very good person who takes care of the roof at my house and also at the Williamsville school, but unfortunately he can't do the hall because it's a 3-story building. But those buildings are done once a year. It comes out and checks them. But the hall, fortunately, with the exception of that one leak that we had by the maple tree, the roof is held up quite well.
Good.
Yeah. And Jan, the man who did the assessment, I mean, he really went through the place. He went up into the upper attic, and you'll see pictures of things I've never seen before. So, of the way the trusses were built.
Well, this is great, and it gives us something to go by, so
Yeah.
I think that if everybody else is okay with that, you have your meeting, and then we'll meet and discuss again after we've read the report.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And we'll continue our search for the contract.
You're doing a great job.
And if you know of anyone, just suggestions, just send them in.
Yeah, got a few
Absolutely.
people I could recommend.
Thank you.
Anything further for
Any
the
questions?
Williamsville Hall? Any questions?
No.
Thank you for this. I look forward to reading it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you too. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, just careful when you walk through the village.
Yes. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you guys here. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And now we will go back to Katy with our update on cannabis.
So, turns out that I don't have a ton to report because most of it is very specific for how exactly it's going to be licensed and all of the details. And so it doesn't really have much to do with what the town's responsibility is. In fact, there is no update on the town's portion of it whatsoever. It's all about how it's going to work for the people who are getting the licenses, and it's extremely specific. However, like, I don't even know how much we would charge. They haven't released that yet. Like, we have the Liquor Control Board, and we should also have a similar CCB board here, which we were advised prior to keep under the Selectboard's review, just like the Liquor Control Board. But at this point, we don't have any information. The state has not released what that might be because they dictate that. It's on hold, and part of the reason why it's on hold is because the state has just announced that everything's going to be tied up and late because they only have 4 people on the Cannabis Control Board and they need to hire 11 more people. So everything is kind of on hold. So we shouldn't feel like we are pressured to make any decisions rashly at this time. But when we do get there, we do have some things that we need to be considering. We need to probably consider having a site visit for first-time licensors because there are very specific things that they have to have in place as licensees.
I'm sorry, for sale or for growing?
For growing.
Okay.
Not even for sale. I'm not even talking about retail, but for growing, which is something that we are more apt to see versus manufacturer or laboratory or wholesale. I mean, I guess somebody could be a wholesaler, but we really don't have the industry available in Newfane to support any of the other measures. However, cultivation can be done by anyone who has a license. And there are multiple tiers, and they have very, very specific guidelines that they have to follow, including not being visible from the roadway, which is a really simple one for us to do. So anybody who is cultivating and has an outdoor permit or a mixed cultivation permit will not be able to have those fields visible from the road. They can be masked with fencing, with hedges, with buildings, but it cannot be visible from the road, which I find interesting and is probably something for first-time licensees that it might be worth a site visit. Under their agreement, they have to accept a visit at any point from anybody. And they have lots of other stuff that they have to have in place, like photo ID for all of their staff and background checks for their staff and licensing, and they have a lot of stuff that they are responsible for. It's not something to take on as a casually at all. It's a very formal business plan for anyone who's interested in doing it, including like water management plans.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yes.
No one under age 21 at all on the premises. Like, I don't know how small farmers will do that if they have kids. I don't know how it'll work.
Do you know who would enforce any of it?
That is part of the concern. Yeah, the CCC board is supposed to be overseeing those things. They have a very strict way of going about it. And the failure to do so and the levels of those failures, you know, come with between $10,000 and $30,000 fines.
Wow.
They're big.
Do you think you would know more after this webinar?
Maybe. I think I would really like to attend it. Because it does say it will talk a little bit about what municipalities have available to them. Municipal authority to regulate cannabis establishments. So hopefully that will have some increased information, but it is not currently available in the 5 articles that have been released.
So more to come.
More to come. I know, it's really fun.
So this means that for the whole state, there can be no legal growing until this has been worked out, so everything is on hold, am I understanding correctly?
There are, the CCB currently has something like 600 applications, and they are not processing any of them right now.
Wow.
Huh.
Which the idea was to process the cultivation so that in October, 30%, at least 30% of integrated licensees' product will be local from small cannabis growers, which is a great notion, but if they have no product, then what happens? So I understand, like, this is probably messing up a lot of people right now who have clones waiting. I can't even imagine. I'd be stressing really hard right now if I had a business plan like that.
Yeah, you get about 3 weeks to figure it out.
So if someone has a business plan, they submit their proposal to the state,
Correct.
how would we find out if there's someone in Newfane? At the moment, there's no structure for that to happen?
At the moment, no.
So they could get approval from the state, but they also need approval from us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that we can do. Otherwise, there is nothing else that the town, any municipalities have structured for. It's not written in.
Interesting.
Towns that are chartered and have a 1% tax for goods can then use it, but not other towns. Yes.
Doing the research for you, I did do a survey of towns in Vermont.
Mhm.
Of the 248 towns, only 96 approved cannabis of any kind.
Mhm.
9 voted no, including Vernon,
Mhm.
and 143 have not decided. So Newfane's not the only one that's kind of like
I mean-
waiting to see how this process is going
Yeah.
and not to feel pressure because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's very,
And I,
what somebody does in their house may not go in somebody's house in Newfane. So if you can get it somewhere else,
I'll be interested because when the West River Advocacy, what are they called again? Sorry.
Thrives.
Them, West
Yes.
River Thrives, but they were talking about whether or not there would be rules about proximity to schools and churches and et cetera. And I'm waiting to find out what those are because we have a very limited scope that is slated for commercial business, and that is Route 30. And there's a school at one end and a town in the middle. Like, I don't even know how that would work.
Another school at this end. So you have
Oh,
Kendall
I don't
Park
even think
and you
about
have Newbrook.
Right.
So,
It's usually only like 500 feet or it's not.
So the farm would have to be in a commercially designated area, it can't be someone.
Oh, no,
I think the
for
farm
commercial,
should be-
if we were to even consider
For a
having
dispensary.
retail dispensaries.
I'm sorry, I know I keep asking this question
That's
different
okay.
ways, but I'm not completely understanding the process. Someone wants to grow,
Yes,
they send an application to Montpelier.
yes.
Let's say at some point eventually Montpelier says, yes, we approve it.
Mm-hmm.
How does the town find out?
No idea. That hasn't been determined yet.
I think it would be similar to the liquor board. They would get the application returned to them and then they would have to come into the town
Yeah, I'll probably
municipality. If I believe all the documents for big liquor control come from Montpelier
So then,
to the
once
applicant.
Montpelier starts approving,
Mm-hmm.
and someone from Newfane, let's say, makes an application,
Mm-hmm.
we would then have to be prepared to respond to that.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's not.
I know it hasn't happened yet.
But it probably
I'm
will.
trying to
It
understand.
will probably happen soon, but I
I've heard of
haven't.
many people submitting applications
You
from
have?
the town of Newfane.
Oh,
really?
For both retail and for grow.
Interesting.
So I don't know what that entails.
Also, it's probably important to note that while there's only going to be 5 integrated licenses given to existing medical cannabis dispensaries, right? A licensee can hold multiple types of licenses, which means that they could do some manufacturing and cultivation, or they could do their own labs. They could do that as long as they're licensed to do those things. So there's a lot coming down the pipeline. And I think we, at this point, are just waiting for clarity. And God, I hope it comes soon. I hope somebody makes it easier because this is dense stuff to read.
I don't think anybody gonna get into growing the pot, as a business for commercial. I would almost think it'd all be done inside anyway. The buildings all controlled weather and, they can grow that.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
It'd be
and it's-
very expensive and they have to have very specific, like they have to be environmentally friendly and have the nicest lighting, the low, within certain point. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in this legislature that talks about what you need to have this versus that. And then you can have both. You can be an outdoor grower, or you can be an indoor grower, or you can get a mixed cultivation license, which allows you to do some of both. And it has very specific details as to what that is, with how many plants inside, how many feet outside. Like it's all detailed at this point. But how
I think, like I said,
we,
anybody gonna get into it, they really get into you wanna do it inside. I was watching that show with, the Blues, they call it Blue Brother one. And I mean,
the Blues Brothers.
it's amazing how quick they can grow that.
Indoor definitely has its perks.
Yeah, and I mean, they've projected what Vermont's gonna pull in about $250 million between now and 2025 of cannabis sales projected.
It'd be nice.
It's huge money. I mean, I have a friend who's got one of the largest dispensary chains in the West in Colorado, and he's got multiple houses and many Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Yeah, it's huge money. And I think Vermont could use some money.
Yeah.
Um,
So I have a question and I have a suggestion.
Sure.
My question is, why is wastewater so important in terms of growing?
They use a lot of chemicals
For indoor growing especially, yeah, they use a lot of hydroponic chemicals and pesticides have to all be recorded and logged. Like if they're using pesticides, there's a lot happening.
Yeah, and high potency fertilizers in our water system
Nitrogen,
can have
Benefit.
quick repercussions.
Right. Okay, so here's another suggestion. It's possible, it may not happen, it's possible that we'll suddenly be thrown into a situation of a request coming into us to approve or not, and we won't be ready, so either the person has to wait. Would it be useful to find out from the towns that are around us what they have done, to just collect whatever they approved, whatever they decided, whatever they're doing, just so we start building up some body of information about what others are trying to figure out. So if we have to act quickly,
I think that's
we have
reasonable.
something to look at.
I think that's reasonable to do. It's one of the few times where not having a county government is kind of shooting us in the foot because we're all trying to do it independently and there is very little conversation between towns.
We could even ask WRC to sponsor a meeting perhaps. But we could also I could bring that up with Chris if you like.
Yeah, curious, because obviously,
We're all going to be
I think-
wrestling with it soon.
Yeah.
I mean, Wilmington is going forward with it already, right?
Did they get the
And
second
Brattleboro
vote?
as well.
Did Wilmington do a second vote?
I have no idea.
Okay, because I know that there was a petition to have to revote.
Oh, really?
Well, that would be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
And then after this webinar, we'll have more information and we can keep it as a topic.
Yeah, and I
I
can
think-
reach out to the friends I have in the industry and see, what the process they go through looks like.
Yeah.
I can't quite figure out.
Massachusetts is quite strict, but they're also quite prolific already with their production scale. It's
Yeah.
massive.
I can't figure out why Vermont feels the need to write out everything again, like why reinvent the wheel?
Right, that's.
When several states have already done this and modeled and are succeeding, and like we already like California a lot, so why not just take a closer look at what they're doing?
Yeah,
But
Colorado.
this seems to be, they seem to be stuck in a rut right now. Hopefully they figure out what's happening at the state level soon, because it's going to be affecting everybody who
Agreed.
wants to try to get off the ground this year.
Yeah. Sorry.
I wish I had more information for like our part as the town. It's not available.
Well, I think just keeping it on our agenda and a conversation that keeps going and keeping it fresh, I think that would be the best thing.
Well, just as two follow-ups,
WRC.
I'll reach out to Chris and just ask if that's an appropriate thing for WRC to sponsor.
Chris who?
Chris Campany,
Oh,
for WRC are they having any conversation about this, or could they bring together the various town reps to just have a conversation about what people are doing and how they're thinking about it?
Mm-hmm.
And then if Winetta could take a look at, some of our surrounding towns and how they voted. How many towns are there in Windham County? I don't know, but
Quite a few.
20-ish.
20-ish.
28 or 29, I think.
so maybe those that have if you could just sort of do a status of where those towns are, and then picking the ones that are closest to us, if they're town. What are you saying?
She might even have it.
Oh, that if the town administrative assistant or whoever is the appropriate one in that town can just share with us the regulations that they passed, so we know what others are doing, just helps I like it, when I don't know what's going on, I like information.
Yeah,
And I think that's the biggest issue here is there hasn't been,
Right,
it's not here yet.
right.
We don't have it. And considering that they only have 4 people on the board,
Yeah, that's not happening.
that's not helping anything.
Right, right. Okay.
Did you have something to share?
I did, I had the towns, I know.
We can prepare for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, so we'll keep this on the agenda and do another update at our next meeting to see if we have any further information.
Yes. And if you don't have time to talk to Chris, I can do that too.
Oh, if you want to do it, please go ahead.
Working on it
Do you have
slowly.
his email, or do you need it?
If you could pass that to me, that'd be great.
With that, we're gonna move right to you.
Okay.
So the ARPA funds update.
So I just wanted to have a conversation now that we've had those 3 meetings with the various folks who came in to talk to us. I don't think there's much to do in terms of the telecommunications request yet because they have to get further along. But in terms of the conversations that we had with J.D. Hines on sewer systems, Chris Campany on the idea of the municipal grant, and the housing, Max Vandervliet, who talked about housing. He called me up and just wanted to put in that he would be willing to do some report for the town if we were interested. So I just was curious what other people's reactions were to the presentations we had, and if there were specific things that you felt would be useful to follow up on. And I'll just put out there for myself, what I thought would be useful would be to go the next step and request proposals on different issues. So I would be curious what J.B. Hine, she sort of outlined in her presentation some ideas about what she thought would be needed to try to figure out the next steps. And there were requests brought up from townspeople on looking at composting toilets and the like, so to include that in the study. So I thought that a next step would be to figure out, to make a request for proposals on looking at the sewers, thinking about what kind of, do we want a housing study, and if so, what would the components of it be that we wanted a report to cover? Do we want to apply for a municipal grant, and if so, what issues might we want it to address? And then the last thing, I was intrigued when Chris Campany was talking about having a river engineer go through the town with us and talk about what kind of remediation might be appropriate for the at different points in the river. So I thought those would, in my mind, be useful follow-ups, but I was curious what other people.
I think those are all fantastic ideas.
Yeah, they're all great ideas. River management is,
That's huge because
I
we
know
always
that's
have a
high
problem with our rivers.
Right.
yeah, it's high on the list of a lot of people's worries and
Anxiety.
concerns.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And yeah, it does appear that we are getting more and more rain.
Yeah.
The wastewater treatment, I'm fascinated by. I would want to know how, what the scope of that project would be. We have very limited ARPA funds. I do think it would be a shame, I think Mike kind of alluded to that too, if we just spent all this money on consultants and didn't have any actual impact on town
I
and
agree.
community.
But I think a study like that could be a first step in figuring out, if we wanted to pursue this, what would the road look like? And there are grant monies, especially from the state and the federal government. So
True,
I
yeah.
certainly would not advocate spending $440,000 on trying to see what we could do with just sewers. But I
Yeah.
definitely think that spending some money on it
Yeah,
could
and-
be advantageous for us to learn more.
Yeah, and I think to to think that in 30 years there aren't going to be considerably more people in our community is very short-sighted. People are starting to move out of drier areas, and we obviously have water. So this is going to be a place. Yeah, maybe too much, but this is going to be a place people are going to be.
I always joke that our water table is +2. It just seems to be.
Well, if people would like, I would be happy, this is something I enjoy doing, I would be happy to think about this some more and try to put some stuff together and bring it back to the select board as a proposal to them.
Well, I think all three of these topics that we have in old business will keep rolling over
Yeah.
continuously, and it's always gonna be a conversation that we need to have.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great.
I would add, I know Jay has mentioned and talked with me about how they would love to even pare down the town road responsibilities more, but I feel like all of our major roads follow rivers, and we have so many bridges. Maybe it's worth looking into seeing if there's a high road that we can establish instead somewhere.
Tell me more what you mean.
The old county road that goes between Parish Hill and Adams Hill Road goes up and over the mountain and is not next to a river. For instance, that's a roadbed that is a town right away that already exists. And it was one of the only ways for people to get through, and it could only be done via four-wheeler in August.
Because Dover Road was taken out.
Because Dover Road was taken out in multiple spots, not just one, multiple spots.
Yeah.
And it's something that maybe we need to consider for long-term planning for the future. As much as I would hate to have it go through the middle of nowhere, it might also...
It's only the middle of nowhere until it's
a public road. Correct.
People will build.
Yeah. But we don't have any, everything follows rivers.
Yeah.
Newfane has more bridges than most of the towns in the state.
And dirt roads.
Yeah.
So it is something to consider a high road.
That's something.
We don't have that option right now. We can't connect, yes, you can connect from Williamsville to Newfane, but you can't do the same from Williamsville all the way over to Dover. Currently, you have to. You can only take Dover Road. It's the only option. Unless you have horses. Or a bicycle. Yes, there are options. We have existing right of ways. That's all it's a thing. It's maybe.
And it's
in
not just the
scope.
rivers either, it's the brooks too. Everything, when that rain and that water comes, everything is gone, because even right out here with the little brook, Route 30 was covered.
Yeah.
Between the river behind and the brook coming underneath. It was,
Tinsdale has no brook on it, but it certainly did on July 30th,
Yeah.
29th last year. And we lost
and now it's
half our
created
road.
more little waterways. So.
Yes.
Yeah, what are you talking about for a higher road though? Is that just for like a temporary use?
No, as a permanent alternative route. I know.
Like just say if you had a flood then come down through, all them houses that are along the river now, you wouldn't bother rebuilding the road to put them back?
I think you would still have to, but it wouldn't trap people, and there would be a way to navigate around it. An
interesting thought.
Yeah,
Figure out how you would do that.
I don't know if
I
that's
think
what Jamie's lessening the burden.
It's the opposite of what Jay said. However, it is something that we need to consider. If we're considering other things that are going to get worse because weather's going to go bad.
Well, we're doing the mitigation study or report now with WRC.
Yeah.
I don't remember when that's going to be ready, but I wonder if that's an issue that will be contained in there.
Just think of how many places across the state got isolated.
Yeah,
you know,
a lot.
a lot. The whole Route 100 corridor got messed up.
Yeah. I mean,
Up through the state,
villages, towns, roads, they all follow rivers.
everything.
We
That's where
built,
people lived.
we built our lives around rivers because
That's the way it's always
that
been.
was power, that was water, is life.
Well, it used to be the houses were in the mountains, then they moved the villages down into the lower land.
Right.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know, I mean, yeah, it's worth maybe looking at, but I think when you start to rebuild them roads, the way things, so everything is nowadays, it costs an awful lot of money.
Oh, for sure. I would
Especially if you
agree.
put it as a regular road.
Well, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
It's just a thing, and I wanted to put it out there because we're dreaming, right? We're dreaming.
It could be at least something to have an emergency plan in place to get out there and make those roads passable if people needed to get from A to B.
And that will be a lot of discussion, I'm sure, at this training on the 26th for the emergency management.
Right.
So that will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what we can do, but I also feel like we need to actually do. And so I'm like
Right.
feeling that pressure of wanting to make headway.
Well, and another part of that is maintaining and making the roads that we have, that we know are problem roads when there is an issue, and making sure that they're taken care of.
Yep.
You know, as soon as you can get out there and fix them. That's why I was asking Jay about culverts and ditching and making
Yeah.
sure things are maintained so that when we get to these rainy seasons, we're not gonna be in trouble, you know, but it's also hard on a four-man crew, so.
I mean, that goes back to this whole thing, I keep talking about blacktop at one, especially from one town to another town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, you know, when Windham Retail come to us, when Shelley brought that up last time, about how if one town would pay, this one they had a big demand to help pay for all this paving.
Well, yeah, that was South Wardsboro Road to, Wardsboro.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of the guys at Windham, no, we don't want to do it. Well, I talked to everybody that lives on the Wardsboro Road up through there, and they said they'd love to see that blacktop. But I mean, you know, the thing is just like us, here comes mud season, you know. If we took care of one of our biggest problems, which is the South Wardsboro Road, by sealing it off with the pavement, that gives us more time to concentrate on Woodwall Hill and some of these little side roads that you wouldn't have that mud problem. I mean, where you have the mud problems, where you wouldn't have to deal with it on like the South Woodward Road, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I keep saying. I think we gotta look at more of that kind of stuff, just like, you know, even like the parish, you know, where you go up over that, you know, it's a truck route, you know, that's a bypass around, and at least you see the steep parts of the hills and things like that, you know? I mean, but I really do think that we gotta start looking at more blacktop, you know, because I don't know, it's gonna be such a good year this year with price of oil, but.
Well, it's like you said too, that, you know, we pay so much in taxes, and what do we need the most is our roads. We need our roads to get from A to B and back. So if something really bad happens again, like Irene or last year, we should really be prepared and thinking about it and do something about it.
But you probably look at your tax basis, probably, at least, I know it's at least 85% of the people. The only thing they're getting out of their taxes is the use of a road.
Yeah.
They still pay all the other tax, but the only thing you really get to go every day out of is on the road, you know? That's why I think we should start paying attention to that.
I did see a figure once though. It's like 1.5 million per mile or so to.
Yeah, but you know, them guys are so out of whack like that. It's like me and Jay were talking about. I mean, I used to be the road foreman in Warsaw years ago. I mean, probably 40 years ago, the road foreman up there. The road commissioner, actually, that's what they elected. And I ran the road. And there's a road that sends the South Wardsboro on the other end. It used to stop at the Brooks Farm, which is down towards Wardsboro more. Going up in the Wardsboro Village, South Wardsboro Village, every year, that was the damn money. You can have fix some of the culverts, put a little gravel here and there where you really need it to shape the roads, and pave it, you know?
And how long has that road been paved?
The one up in Wardsboro?
Not.
Well, it's been probably paved for at least, well, like I said, I haven't worked from them since I worked in the 70s and early 80s. So,
And it's still in good shape?
like,
Has it had to be repaved?
yeah, they've resurfaced it a couple times, right? But I mean, you know, it doesn't get muddy every spring like it used to. I mean, one of the big jumps up there all was years ago, you know, like when Raymond Young and them were getting the kids down out of there for going to school, and then running over the Naps over on the Townsend Dam Road. When you left that blacktop, they said you want to make sure you hit the right rut wherever place you're headed for. Because that's close to get over through there, you know.
Are we talking about the part that goes to like the little four corners where Potter Road is and that
Yeah.
area?
Yeah, where you come up to the T right there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And went from there down towards the village. That used to all on that brook, all the way down through that old farm down there. It used to be from the farm up was all dirt.
Okay. Yeah, I bet that did help.
I think these are all fantastic ideas and stuff to keep talking about. And I think we should have this conversation more when Jay is with us,
Yeah.
because he has signed off for the night.
Oh,
Because I'm sure he'd have some good input. And you're gonna reach out to Chris.
Do we need to draft some parameters for private businesses to do a thing?
We're working on that. We're working on that. Information has been requested, just waiting. And I haven't had a chance to follow up with my first email, so it's coming.
Thank you.
No worries. Is there anything else on researching ARPA funding options?
How do we narrow it down to moving in a direction?
I don't know why we can't do more than one.
Get reports,
Yeah.
get things started,
I
and
think
then
that,
we can just
Do we have like
them all.
a budget that we want to agree, like, do we want to agree on? Like, we're not going to spend more than X amount on this and we're not going to.
I think that depends on what we find out, honestly.
we certainly can do that, but I don't think we know enough right now to be able to do that. But I think that certainly down the road, we certainly could.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody reach out to their appropriate people and we will reconvene this conversation at our next meeting.
Sounds fine.
All right, are we ready to move on? Any new business? No correspondence? And with that, I'm going to go into pay orders and I hope everyone has a great evening. Stay safe out there and have a great night.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.